Thank you for coming to the Engineer.tf Vanguard map review featuring Alto.tf. We'll be going over Vanguard. You see, not really a new CP map, but still an unfamiliar one for a lot of people. As I'm a medic, a lot of what I'll be talking about is focused on what your combo will be doing. However, I'll be making notes to say what I normally see flanks do and engineer when applicable. Keep in mind that this is a new map, and there is no, meta set in stone on it yet. So, whatever, I'm saying here is what I've seen done and what the map maker and I have talked about, what we expect to be done. So, your mileage may vary, and if it works for you and your team, I'd say, stick with that rather than what I'm saying. But, I will go over what I've seen done, what's been good, what's been bad, and, what I think and how the map should play. I guess we'll get started. This is the spawn room. 3 exits out. I believe that actually going out of the lower exit is technically faster by a fraction of a second. Most people will never do that though, especially because your team spawns closer on this side, meaning that most people will leave out through this door. It's fine. This is probably the better one too anyway, since you can drop an engine's tele, just in case you manage to lose the mid-fight. Vents again, a little bit slower by a half second, so you just run out through, the garage into, second and then get to mid. I'm gonna skip back and go over some callouts ahead of time. This map is completely linear, meaning that all the points pretty much go in a straight line. There's no bends or twists on a map like Gully or Process, meaning that for the most part, the majority of calls on this map are all just relative. Left and right. Their scouts coming in right, or their combos rotating left, kind of thing. Just because everyone's always gonna know what you're talking about. And it's pretty easy to tell once you play a scrim or two on this map. You can get a feel for the map down. Last is probably one of the few areas where I do see calls coming in. Last is pretty big. There's, a couple ways to get in, depending on how many you count coming out of this upper room. Start with that vent over there. Maybe vent, pretty obviously. The little area that vents leads off into. Normally, I'll call that deck or bats or something. It's a popular sentry gun spot, but I'll go over that more once I hit last. Boxes here. This is pretty much just the point. This area back here can be back stairs, and this can be back bats. I've heard teams call this light or just left, depending on where you're defending from. This big room up here is upper. You've got lower down here. And then this is normally just stairs. Those back stairs very rarely come into play, so I wouldn't be too worried. If you say stairs, most players should know you're talking about these. Do keep in mind this glass here is one way. You can see out of it, but you can't see in, and it leads out to over here. This room really is, I think most people don't call it too much. Occasionally you'll hear people hiding up here, and you'll hear it called garage door, like he's hiding on, door on in the upper area. That's about it. That's a little bit, misleading though, because the main thing is that this whole area in here is generally called garage. So if you and your team really want, you can come up with your own call out for that room all the way up there. No, there's no real difference between the two areas here. If you say garage, it's generally implied to mean anywhere from this room to this room. So if you're holding last and someone says sniper's peeking garage, you know that this is the sightline to get out of. Pretty easy to see. So if someone managed to run through it at that point, you don't call their in garage, you call their in vent, and you'll know where to get up from. Second is pretty light on the calls. This area is normally house. You've got elevator up there. This will be lower or pit. Some teams like to distinguish this as this flank into last as lower, with this area here being pit, and this is like ramp over here. Normally it's just, it doesn't come into play too much. You can call, their pyro blew our med into pit or something, and you'll know there. But if you hear a scout's flanking us lower, you're gonna look here. So I wouldn't fret too much about that. This is normally just right side. You've got right upper, right lower if you really need to call it. Just because there's the 2 levels. And then if you're calling left side, I'd normally take that to mean the jump. This area, this kind of open area in between house and left side of lobby. Moving on, this is lobby, this entire side, and again, you have your left lobby over here, main lobby, right lobby, I guess. Then normally on mid, you've got ramp up here. I normally call this lumber or plank, part up top. And then bats are generally these areas, since how they end up looking over most of mid. That's about it for callouts. Again, I think it's pretty light most of the time. If you can use the specific calls, but if you just say, oh, their combo's rotating right side, then everyone's going to know, they're either on a mid fight, they're going to be there or up there. I'll transition that into what you should be doing on mid fights. As far as combo goes, there's really two and a half ways to play this. First one is to be going aggressive. You push up ramp, drop down here, and get into this little area. It's a very safe spot for a medic. Only really a soldier bombing behind can get him, but there should be a heavy with him anyway. The goal with this is kind of like almost plays like a gully wash mid, where you then try to get aggressive up here with your demo and try to spam them out in their lobby. Try to force them to back out all the way over there while your flank caps point. And then a lot of the times, against two teams that know what they're doing, both teams will do this. So then it becomes an issue of snipers and flanks making a difference here. Just a neat little thing. A lot of engineers I'll see will, go, if their combo's going up their ramp, they'll come out over here and try to flank if the enemy team stays in lobby, and a lot of them will, you put a dispenser here and then jump up on it. Which is a fine strat, but generally you're better off if you have it putting, as Wax said, you can put a telly there, and then any class can actually jump on top of it, whether or not they're an engineer or not. Which is, just a neat little trick. It's also not a terrible telly spot as long as you call it ahead of time, just because it is kind of hard to see initially. So always good to keep that in mind. The other main combo strat that I see is just a very passive mid. You just pretty much stay in lobby, buff your sniper over here, and hope he can get a pick. He can be rotating between the main lobby exit and then bats generally to try to get onto the other bats or try to snipe someone getting aggro on point. If that's the case, then as an NG you should probably just be kind of playing passive, either just trying to get a read on their flank. This is a map again where engineer doesn't have to be glued to his scout and soldier. With all this area to cover, since there's normally, left, right, and center, your combo's generally covering center. Splitting up your flank isn't always an awful idea. Pyros can make a lot of good flank plays too, so, if you see you go into mid, you're playing a passive hold, you see that your scout and soldier seem to have a pretty good grasp on this right side, then you can be going over to the left, stick a mini, I don't know, somewhere over here or so. It's not a bad one, that's level 1, but, get the point. Just to kind of control both sides. You and your mini work very good as a defensive kind of passive hold, just to keep area, which is namely what you should be doing on this map. There's a lot of really good flank opportunities for scout and soldier due to their mobility and the size of the map. As you're a little bit slower as an engineer, I wouldn't say that you should be flanking as much as you should just be, focusing on zone denial and making sure that, your combo doesn't get flanked through one of those sides, or at least if they do, they have to go through you and your mini and come out of it at, 30 HP. Let's say that on mid, regardless of what you do, your team comes out ahead, maybe because both teams decided to push up on the left side. They pushed up each other's ramps, and you and your flank worked together and had a really nice play where you maybe got over point or whatever and killed their med out here or forced them all out into lobby. And you're one of the better classes to start capping. The mid on this point is very open. You can be shot at from many different angles, as you can probably see. You have this whole lobby one, right side on bats, this lower area. Spies can get you from up on the plank. So it's not very good to rush this point. I see a lot of people do that on process or gully, where they'll try to get some cap time early. On this map, if you try to do that, you should end up dead. I mean, you can probably get away with it against less coordinated teams, but I wouldn't focus on it too hard. But yeah, then once you cap, you should try to take lobby control, and again, you're just kind of doing the same thing as you did on the mid, which is just focus on area denial. Second plays very well, in my opinion. I think it's one of the main reasons why this map is, has its fans, myself included. Mainly because of the way sniper sightlines work. There are two really main sightlines snipers tend to take on this map. One being kind of on this main plank, watching either left side or rotating a bit, trying to get some crack shots in lobby or even, you know, up here to get more of that left area under control from his perspective. The other one being all the way back here, where you try to get more of an angle into lobby and you try to get flank plays over there. This means that out of the 3 entrances, you have fairly safe rotations between the 3, and there's generally going to be one that he's not watching. So say that you manage to catch their sniper, good telly that Sowax put up there to help jump up. Say that he's playing in the back right from offense perspective. That means that it's very possible for your team to, you know, rush right into this house and take control of it, which is a really, you know, a little risky, but it's a really fun and generally rewarding strategy to do, since it's very hard for them to get in on you here. You have a lot of safety and you're very far in this point, considering that the actual capture is right back there. You can Uber out of this door here, and then they're forced to meet you in this area where your flank goes in and pushes the point. So a lot of the times on second during pushes, you're going to want to be, you know, trying to get cap time here. This is a really powerful spot to cap in just because of the cover and again, just kind of how far out of the way it is, because most defense combos will play around here or so. So if your combo Ubers out of that door over there, there's not really going to be too much contesting you on the point unless they get wrapped and, you know, farmed after the Uber's over. Most of the time, flanks will end up playing on this left side a lot of the time. There's these 2 different areas here in a very big open space that definitely favors the soldier that has the high ground here. So I wouldn't be too aggressive in trying to take this unless you're, you know, you're moving with the rest of your flank and maybe a pyro trying to force him out. A mini either right on the top of the stairs here or even a little further back over here or so can be really annoying to deal with because of the way that these stairs block it. Meaning that, you know, a scout won't be able to chip it down and a soldier might have to take an extra second to line up a rocket or so to shoot at it. In general, though, flank should be just kind of contesting the enemy flank a lot, trying to make room for their combo, and when a push comes out, you know, you try to get in and cover up areas where they're not going. The alternate push into second generally is if their sniper's really sticking in on that garage sight line. Combo is going to be going left here, pushing out up here, and then trying to contest them from this upper kind of deck here on the flank. And then you're doing the opposite, where you should be getting into either running out through main and getting point presence with, you know, maybe a mini right over here, or try to get into house and flank with the rest of your scout and soldier and get out behind them and really put them in a sticky kind of situation. Second, I don't think is that great of a point for NG. One thing that is pretty cool is the elevators are very good spots for sneaky flank plays and tellies. Unless you actively check it, it's pretty hard to see. So whether or not you're defending your own or pushing theirs, stick a telly maybe like right here or so, I'd say. And it's pretty difficult to see from a distance, pretty much invisible, unless the enemy team happens to see someone taking it. Meaning that if you are on their second or you're on your own, you can leave a telly exit up there, and then if you get, you know, either you get pushed back to your left or you push into theirs, whatever, you can have a really, you know, nice kind of sneaky ninja play coming up. So that's something I always try to. I've played with NG and some pugs on this map, and it's always good to try to put those out there. Maybe you can get a soldier behind them, help get a med killer or a force or something. I'm actually going to backtrack into mid. I talked about the mid fight, but not too much about defending or holding it on its own. NG is pretty powerful on this point, I'd say, compared to second, just mainly because of this plank. Seen Game Master and Little Death build level 3s up here that have been very, very annoying to deal with due to just how much they cover. I wouldn't really recommend it though. Coordinated team can spam it out and it's kind of lowering your effectiveness otherwise. But again, with just this much area, having a mini sentry is really useful just for either, you know, just controlling an area pretty much, because again, it's so wide where, say that you're holding mid. Ideally, if you're holding mid, you're going to want to be in lobby, and then you can probably put a mini right, you know, right here or so, right in the middle of the lobby, and it sees a lot of the area, depending on where you kind of want to focus, you know, holding. If maybe they're putting a lot of effort into getting in on this left side, and seen NGs kind of sneak up, and I think you can kind of get a mini up here. You even drop a dispenser, jump up, get it on that side, and then you play on the play over here and it's kind of a double threat thing. Or if their flanks pressuring you on the right side, you know, put something right up over here. And again, just I've been saying it over and over, your main goal here is to just zone, create pressure, and not let anyone get behind you. A lot of the times though, you'll end up getting forced out of lobby and your team's gonna have to hold mid a little more passively on the point. In this case, just sticking with a side and holding it's a good one. I'd normally like my engineer to play on this left side. So, you know, you mini over here or so, and then wait until their combo forces you out. Then, again, just kind of stick it up over here, backing up as you have to, and then you can, you know, do the little jump, get on the little teleporter jump. There you go. You can even teleport, jump out, and then, you know, get back on here, back on the lumber, even just a mini up here. Really good distraction. Sensor spots are probably up to you. I'd wait to see where your combo holds first, since most teams end up playing this map slightly differently. About it. As far as pushing mid goes, kind of the same thing. Just, you know, help limit their flank and maybe get some extra damage out to help your flank get ahead. One thing I will say, especially about this lobby area, is that there are not a lot of health packs, and that is completely by design. There's a medium pack in the middle of lobby that most combo members will usually use. As for flank, there's a small pack here, and then there's a small pack in the house right about where I'm firing, through the wall in the back. Got a small pack on both sides of mid, and then the defending team on second has a small pack in pit and in the back there. But none of those are medium packs, which means that a lot of the damage you do on flank will stick. And even if you don't get a kill, you know, if you hit a soldier, if there's, you know, scout walks into a mini, takes 20 damage, and you chip shot him for, you know, another 40 or 60 damage, he's going to be really hurt, and he's going to have to back up and go get a buff. There's no convenient medium pack, you know, that might be placed on a map like Process right over here or something that he can just go get and come right back into the fight. So that's why being smart and, you know, zone controlling and just trying to get off safe damage is really important. And Engineers are a very good class for doing that. So that's something to keep in mind. I guess focusing more specifically on defending or pushing into mid, you don't have too many options. If you can get a flank off on, say that you're pushing in this direction, if they leave this area undetected, you can try getting in over here and maybe sneaking in and getting into the combo and get a med force or something. If you have the safety, you can try wrangle jumping up there. That's a spam fest play that I've seen him do on Cascade and a couple other maps. That's a little risky, but can be really funny if you get it off. You just drop a mini right here, and then you know, wrangle up there. You get the pack, and then you're behind them causing havoc. But little, no, I don't really think that's super necessary. Again, just sticking with your flank and keeping that small amount of health packs in mind, probably your best bet. Moving into second, as far as defending second, since I think that's about it with mid. It plays pretty, I guess, boring for Engineer on that point, since there's just not really too many roads in. Defending second, you know, this is a really powerful mini spot. I was going over those before. Although a lot of teams will commit their scout and soldier here, and it's pretty hard to break them out of that. So what we used to do, I think on Door back in season 17, was we'd have our scout and our soldier play on the right side, then we'd have our pyro kind of stick a little more on this area by the door, and our NG would put a mini either on this box, which is a nice little. It has a lot of coverage, or, you know, even further over, or even further over, just right over here, to control that left side, and then your combo can pretty much focus just on maintaining this door. And if they manage to rotate, you know, 5-6 people over to either the left or the right side, you have people there ready to kind of slow them a bit and give your combo time to rotate. You can play a little more back too if they have a lot of ground in. This is a really annoying deck for mini, as is over here. Just, you know, plays a little more passive, defends the point. You are kind of giving up that you don't have any coverage on this cap spot though, which I've seen end up being very prominent. Most demos will have to clear that out, or a soldier jumping. It's not too important, but something you can keep in mind, especially because you're more of a flanker, is that there are ways to get in the elevator without going through the house. One of them is over here. Just jump pretty much straight up this wall and get into the elevator from here. And then there's a much longer and drawn out one that really isn't useful, but get off here, beef this once or twice. Jump on this metal sheet, basically. Then, barrel. Gas can. Gonna beef it, but go gas can onto that board, onto that board, onto the elevator platform. That's another thing that spies can do too. So again, you know, sometimes you just are in downtime. You want to fire a shotgun shot over there or over there too. You can catch people out doing that if they know about it. As for now, that's all I think I've got off the top of my head in second. As far as last goes, go over defense first, since I think it's a little more of a, you know, trickier topic with all the sentry gun spots. The three main spots I see come into play is there's one on the corner of deck here. Then there's one which goes in the bottom by backstairs, and normally you can put the gun on this box. There's a specific way you can rotate it where it has more coverage on the point immediately. That one, the main reason why I've seen teams use that one is there is more metal. There is a really cheesy trick you can do where you get a level 3 on this box, you wrangle it, and you stick a tele exit right here, and it allows a sniper to... Actually, no, never mind. I'm completely incorrect. That got fixed. There used to be a really dumb head glitch there, where if you stood on a tele, you could see over the box into garage, but that got fixed, so ignore me there. And then the other gun spot is up here on this deck. And they both have pros and cons. A lot of teams I see will default back to having guns back here because it's a lot easier to build. You know, you can't really get spammed as hard from garage, but on the downside, it doesn't actually play into the point defense that much. So if their combo Ubers in, you know, through garage, which is probably one of the more standard pushes, your gun's not going to really be having any impact until they get on the point. And a lot of the times, by that point, either your team has already won the exchange and your gun didn't do anything, or your team's already dead and then, you know, they can just 5v1 the gun. Additionally, the gun up here, let me go get a little bit more metal. The gun up here does have the issue of pretty much no matter where you put it, if you put it over here, it can cover the entire point, but it gets spammed from garage super easily. You can then put it here, which is a lot safer, but the issue is it doesn't cover this corner of the point. So I generally prefer my guns to be up here. A little more easily spammed, will go down a lot more often in fights, but it's a lot more prevalent in the fights. Because having the gun up here means that they can't harass anything from this upper deck if their flank takes control of upper, which we'll talk about in a sec. It covers the garage, and it covers lower decently well too. If a soldier gets into lower with like a DH or something, he can spam the gun, but normally there's going to be someone standing there to prevent that. And then what you can do is you can dispenser block off vent as well. Which is a nice, you can get it right up on the top, which I don't believe a spy can. I think a spy may be able to crouch jump that, but even so, like it's very, it just kind of stalls him out a little bit. It's not a bad spot for you to stand either. You can just be over here and getting stuff from it. But yeah, this is probably my favorite gun spot. Again, you know, try them out, I'd say, see what works best for you and your team. I've even seen people build guns, you know, just right here or something, which I'm not really a big fan of, but, you know, whatever floats your boat in that case. I wouldn't really recommend that, though. As far as flank ends up working a lot of the times in last, your combo is generally going to be holding on the floor here. Just trying to keep control of garage since it's the main way in. You can have a demo and a pyro here, or a demo and a heavy, and then have the pyro or the heavy, whichever one isn't in garage, just kind of playing lower. It's really hard for anyone to get, you know, aggressive on a heavy that's just playing here and has heals nearby. Same thing with a pyro, just because of how long and narrow this hallway is. Flank's normally going to be playing up here. If, for whatever reason, you don't feel you have the time to get a mini up or a level 3 up, you can drop a mini kind of maybe on this deck, on the back corner of this deck, or just up here and play with the rest of your flank, and your main goal is to hold up the other flank from getting in here, or combo, if it so happens. Again, keep in mind this little garage door thing is a thing that's very hard to see through. I don't believe the shadow shows through the wall, and even if it does, you can probably dodge it by standing a little bit more forward. So a lot of the time soldiers will play there, something to keep in mind when you're on defense and on offense, and otherwise, Flank's job is to pretty much just stuff the rest of the team or anyone trying to come in here in this choke. You can play as a soldier just right by this mesh, and you know, anytime someone gets near, you can just stutter step and shoot a rocket out, and you know, cheese the hell out of people. Heavies can start playing up here too if you know they start rotating a combo. There used to be a much more powerful head glitch here, but you can still kind of play this wall pretty well and block a lot of cover and still kind of be crouched or so while you get in on them, or get damage in on anyone trying to walk in. So keeping the rotations in last are important, since a lot of the times teams will, you know, maybe tap second and then gather up around garage, try to get something, not really get anything, maybe back up a bit, try garage again, and then like 20 seconds later, someone was going to make the call, all right, let's go top right, and then everyone runs in top right, and if a flank's ready, they'll have like a soldier up there, you know, scout and a pyro waiting if their spy calls it, and they just get shredded in here. So being in mind of that is important. If you're on a level 3 though, that won't matter too much. As far as pushing last goes, if you're not on the level 3, you're pretty much going to want to do what I was saying your flank should be preventing, which is get ground in this upper area. It's pretty difficult, so a lot of the times you'll either need to have multiple people run in here at the same time, especially with a pyro to reflex soldier rockets, or you just need to get lucky and catch someone out. Spy plays on here too are something that you can keep in mind, just because a lot of the times soldiers are going to be very intently focused on holding this little kind of shutter if they're not on top of the garage door. You can ask for your spy to try to get up here, since it's normally not overly difficult. You can either stealth in, he can either stealth in right through the main door when no one's looking, or come up from the staircase if he gets in and, you know, coordinate it, say, hey, spy, if you can get in on the soldier, you know, I can go aggressive and distract his attention. You know, you kind of walk up here, make him shoot a rocket, then your spy comes in and stabs him, and it's, you know, it's a good way to get control over this upper area. Which is also really nice because, again, this is a one-way window, so you can see out of it, they can't see in. You can get good calls on, you know, where the gun is maybe, where their team's going to be holding, etc. And then when the time for the push comes, you have the option of either just dropping right down the staircase and kind of getting in close if their combo's holding by garage, or you can take one of the left or right exits and just drop out and maybe try to get on point and make them panic out a bit, or you know, get in on a med, or if the gun's over here, a soldier can, if you help your soldier get in here, he can shoot it out pretty easily due to the range there. So really important that last gets, you know, held or taken depending on your point of view. And since you're since on NG, I don't want to say you're disposable, since you're not, but you are very flexible and you can do a bunch of different roles. It's important to keep in mind all of your options, including, you know, working with your spy. I believe that's about it. Wax, if there's anything you want to add, ask me if I think I missed, or
just a few questions, I guess, like engineer specific. So I noticed you mentioned a few times just how wide the map is, just how big and open it is. So because of that, do you think you'd recommend running Wrangler over pistol generally, just so that you can just spam easier?
I'd probably hesitate on it, because while the map is wide, a lot of the times I think the map's kind of divided into thirds though, and a lot of those times those thirds themselves aren't wide, where like there aren't going to be many times where I'm over on left on second, on blue second, there aren't going to be many times where like you're, you know, you're wrangling your mini from over here into that upper right area. So I think a lot of the times when you end up taking fights, they are going to be in kind of that closer medium range rather than the long range. Wrangler to mid can work as a bit of a cheese if you just want to stick a mini down, kind of like just right on the, anywhere on, you know, this first platform to somewhere up on ramp, and kind of wrangle it into lobby. That's something you can do. I wouldn't really recommend it on the other points though, since again, I don't think the map is wide, but you don't end up playing it wide. You generally play it pretty tight, because like if you're, say that your team decides that they want their maybe soldier and pyro holding that left side, and then you and your scout holding this right side. You know, if you have a mini in this room, Wrangler's not going to do anything for it. I mean, anytime someone, unless you put it like right here, and then you're trying to wrangle people out in lobby, which might work. I wouldn't really recommend it though, since you're not going to get too much out of it with that health pack and a medic right there, and then they're just going to, you know, get a sniper and a whole bunch of explosives coming at you. So if you want to try it, it's not totally, you know, worthless on this map. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you get mileage out of it, then again, go ahead.
I also had another question about the mid fight. So I noticed that you didn't really mention this plank that's sort of elevated in the middle. Is that just because it's just not a good place to position yourself on a mid fight? And this isn't just engineer specific. This is just really goes for any class.
You're very, very much exposing yourself here, and beyond that, it's not like, you know, if a med runs from lobby onto ramp, yeah, there's a split second where, you know, a sniper can shoot him, but you're only crossing that for a second. If you get caught out on this plank, you're probably 3 or 4 seconds away from getting back into cover, depending on where you are and where you're going. So it's definitely really risky. If your team is winning the mid fight, then this is something you can do as kind of like a, you know, aggressive win more kind of thing. But I would definitely not, you know, go up there in a 9v9. It's just going to get you shot down and killed very quickly, since most teams are going to say, hey, there's a single player standing in the middle of the point, exposed from all angles. Let's shoot at him and kill him. You know, if they're already kind of down a couple numbers, their sniper's dead maybe, their flank's getting pushed out, you want to get up here and stick a mini as just like a, you know, kind of like an exclamation point or just closing the door on the mid, then that's totally fine. But that's something that, you know, you have to read the mid fight to do, and is not something I would do normally.
And one more question. You also talked about how there were a couple engineers, Game Master, for example, the legend himself, notorious for running level 3s on 5CP maps. Do you think that could ever be viable?
I'm hesitant to say so, namely because second is not a very good point for level 3s, just due to how wide it is and how many ways you have in. I guess just looking at the map, the only real spot I can think of that would be really good for a level 3 is probably on top of the elevator, honestly. It's not that bad of a spot, but the thing is, though, is that it doesn't actually cover the point, because you can still cap right here. Not only can you cap, you can have a heavy right here, go up and shoot the gun through, there's actually a crack in the elevator here, so you can even shoot it up through there. And then, I mean, no matter where you really put it, it's going to get spammed really easily. I mean, maybe you could stick it here, but it's still... a soldier can shoot it from all the way back, even in mid, if you get the right angle on it. So, I don't know. I mean, it works if you say that you're holding last with a level 3. They push in, you know, wipe the push. You can definitely bring the level 3 out, especially if you get into mid, since the level 3 on plank is really strong and pretty hard to deal with. But it's not, again, it's something that's very situational. If the conditions align for it, then you can do that. But again, I wouldn't really go into a mid fight bringing level 3s, because your team's less likely to win a mid fight if you're running level 3s, just because you're not really contributing that much offensively. And then a lot of the times what teams might do is, you know, say that they take a lead with 5 minutes left or something and a half. That's when your NG would run level 3s and just build one on second as like kind of an insurance policy. But as I mentioned before, since level 3s are pretty bad on second, that doesn't really work. So again, maybe bringing it out of last, yeah. As far as actually planning on running it full time or, you know, using it to mid, I wouldn't really bother. And in case you were wondering, this is the other end of that sight line I was mentioning that can shoot the gun all the way, it's either right, I believe it's right about here or so. Shoot the level 3 all the way in the back there, so keep that in mind. Actually, that hits the plank. It would be right here, actually. I just fell off. It wouldn't be that far back. That got fixed, because that used to actually be a major sniper sightline issue. But right here, though, is where you can even see the health pack from right here. You'd be able to shoot the gun that, you know, if it's any further over to the right than that, it wouldn't have much of an impact, because it would barely be able to see the point. So, yeah.
Sweet. So I guess that's pretty much it then. Thanks a lot for helping us out, Alto.
No problem.
And I guess we'll see everybody else for the next video, question mark.